Hello everyone, welcome to this course on data structure in Javascript. Whether you're new to programming or you're looking for to strengthen your understanding, you're in the right place. Now, in this course, we'll dive deep into data structures, which are crucial for writing efficient code. We'll explore the JavaScript built-in data structures like arrays, objects, sets, and maps, and then we move to more advanced structures like stacks, queues, trees, and graphs. Now, each concept will be broken down with easy to understand explanations and real world examples, and we'll get our hands on like real coding exercises. Now, importance of learning data structure. Why should you care about learning data structure? Well, they are the backbone of efficient programming. Understanding them will not only help you write better code, but also prepare you for coding interviews and real world challenges. Imagine trying to organize a library without any system. That's what coding or without data structure is like. Now, this course will help you think about it in an organized about you help you think about it in an organized and logical way. So let's look into data structures. So we say introduction to data structures. What are data structures? Data structures are organized ways to store and what manage data. An example, you say what arrays, linked list, stacks, queues, trees, graphs, and what hash table. But now come to think of it in what scenario can we talk about it? Now imagine a bookshelf whereby I just arrange different books without organizing them. Now, it will be hard for you to get a book you actually want at a certain point in time. But now imagine I have a bookshelf whereby I actually write like according to the author, the gen, the and this something like this, like the author, the gen, and the rest. Now at this point you're able to actually like know you're able to get the books you want easily at that point in time. Now, why does data structure matter? We say it matters because it helps in what efficient data access and what modification, and it's also what the basis for what algorithm. Now we said think of data structure like different types of containers. Arrays are like simple shelves, while trees are like organizational charts. Now, sorry for this. Now the first thing we'll be looking into now is arrays. Now we say what are arrays? Array are an ordered collection of elements accessible by index. Now to create an array, we say let's any name we give equal to the array bracket. Then we say 1, 2, and 3. Now we have different operations here. We have things like to access the array, we could say like let item equal to ARR of index 0, or if we want to insert, we say like array does push 4. Now this push now it actually adds this 4 that is not there before. Now to delete, now we could say r dot pop. Now we're saying we're actually removing the last element that is there. Now in a real life scenario, say an array is actually useful when you need to make, let's say, like a list of in a list of item in a shopping cart. Now this is one of the useful place where we can actually use an array. Now the next thing we'll talk about is so when we talk about transversing, it's just like talking about loop. Now look at it. I'm just saying how do we loop through an array? So I'm saying the for loop. Now the first thing is the initialization of our variable. Now I'm saying let I equal to 0. Now I'm saying I less than r. Remember that's the variable where I stored my array dot length, the length of total length of the array. I'm saying I plus increment the array. Then the next I'm saying is console.log ARR of index of I. So to kind of start from 0 till they get the total length of that certain array. Now when we talk about time complexity, the amount of time it actually takes for the computer to actually run an algorithm is what time complexity is. Now we have access we say like the O and 1. Now for insertion and deletion we say O with the N. For operations like shift or splice in JavaScript, that's when this insertion and deletion falls. So remember, this shift now we use it in doing something like this, like actually removing the first item in the array. That's what we use the shift for. Now this splice can actually like add, remove, or actually manipulate what you actually want there. Now example where we use is storing a list of what a student in a class. Another place we use it, just like I said before, I said we could use it in what to create a list of like items in a shopping cart. Now the next part we're looking into now is objects. Now what are objects? Now say objects are collections of what key value pairs, where keys are what are strings or symbols, and values can be any type of what of data. Now look at, to create an object now we say what, let object equal to what key 1, then what the value, key 2, then what the value. Look at it this way. Now we'll see we are creating let's say I'm a person, right? Now look at it this way. I surely have properties and what value. Now as a person, now let's say let person equal to, now I could say the first property I'm having now is like a name. Now my name is what Faisal. Now the next property I also have what is what age. Now you could say what the age is like, let's say 30 or 40, right? Now the next thing I will say, creating object, we have the literal notation, whereby we say, example, we say let person equal to what name, then colon the name of the person, the value of that name is what John, then we say age, then we give the value as what as 30. Or we're using a constructor function, whereby we say this. Look at this example, say function person. Now remember in the function now we have parameters here, so I could say name and what and age. Now inside that function I'm saying this dot what dot name equal to what this name. I'm saying this dot age equal to what this what age. Now I'm saying let John equal to what new person. When I say let John equal to new person, I'm saying what John, automatically now this John falls as what as the name. Now I'm saying 30, this should automatically falls as what as the what age. Now as I say I'm modifying properties in an object, we say we have the dot notation. Example here where we say console.log person what dot name. Now automatically it's going to give us what John. Now when I'm saying bracket notation, now I'm saying console.log person. Now I'm putting in a bracket what the starting property which is giving what 30. Now I'm saying adding properties. Now to add a property I will say person.email. No, this property was not there before, but now the moment I say outside it person.email, automatically now it adds this guy as what as a property into it. It adds this guy as a property and gives this guy as what as the value. Now to delete properties, now you can say what person delete the first thing is what the delete word keyword, then you say what person does what the certain property you actually what delete. Now look at it, an example, a method in JavaScript. Now look at it. I'm saying let car equal to what brand. The first thing, the first person I'm giving is what is brand. Now I'm saying what Toyota. I'm saying the what model is what Camry. Now I'm giving this the start. I'm giving a function here, basically a method. So I'm saying start, that's the property, but inside that property now I'm giving what a method. Now I'm saying function, then I'm saying what console.log of what car started. Then outside I'm now saying what car.start. What is going to happen? It's going to show me this as what car started. Why? Because I actually what activated what that function of what of starts. Now imagine I didn't put this bracket at the front, nothing will happen. But because I'm putting this bracket indicating that what I'm activating what that starting what function, that's why this guy is what is actually what starting. Now if I want to say break also, I could say just add a property called what let's say park. Then I could say hyphen function. The next I could say console.log like your car is what is parked. Then I could say car dot what park. The next thing you see it will give us an output of what your car has been parked. Now the next part we'll be looking into now is linked list. Now what is linked list? You say is a collection of nodes where each node contains what data and a reference to what to the next node. Now we have different types. You say we have the singly linked list, whereby each node points to what to the next. We also have what the double linked list, whereby we say the node points to what the next and what the previous node. So we have different operations like insertion, whereby we see what we're adding node to what to the list. We have the deletion, whereby we're removing nodes from the list. We also have the what transversal, working through what the list to access what element. Remember this is just saying like loop. Now use case, we say what we the use cases we say we say implementing queues, whereby we are saying we're navigating through what a history of actions in our browser. Now let's take a practical whereby write code to actually see how this guy actually works. So I expect you guys to already have like your Visual Studio code already. Now let's see, the first thing I want to do now is to create the folder I want to actually work upon. So I could say, let's name it data structure. Now we have this. So now let's open VS Code and let's see how this runs out. Now here we have it. Now remember, since we're trying to run a JavaScript code, basically we still need to run it on the web, so we still need the HTML file. Do remember, I can actually write it in an external JavaScript file, but I'll do everything in some HTML. So let's say the first one is singly.html, right? So let's see. So I could say the structure, sorry, so we could say this. Now let's start with our work. So say, let me increase the screen for us to see what we're doing. So we could be having this here saying scripts, right? Sorry, scripts. Then here I could be having this now. So let's start. Now the first thing for us to do now is to what? Define a class to represent what? The each element, inside the linked list. Now I can now say this. I call the class of what? Class of what? Of node. I create a class here called node. Now inside it now I created what? A constructor, right? A constructor. Then I give data in it. Now inside this now I'm now saying this dot data, right, is equal to what? Data. Now why am I doing this? This is to what? To store the what? To store store the data. Now if I now say this also, this dot next, right, is equal to what? Null. Now what am I trying to achieve here now? I'm trying to achieve a situation by like a pointer to what? Towards the what? The next node, by initially setting it to what? To null. Now if I have to come out of this my node scope. Now I say this. I create a new class and call it linked list. Now what's the reason for creating this guy? I'm creating this guy to actually what? To actually I'm creating this class to actually help it manage what? Other nodes. Now I'm creating another constructor. Now in this constructor I now say this. Let's say this dot what? Head is equal to what? Null. Now why am I saying this now? I'm also doing what? I'm initializing the head of the list to what? Towards what? Null. Now let's do this. So close our constructor. Now the next thing for us to do now is to actually what? Add a method that can actually what? Add a new node to the end of the list. Now if I say, let's say I'm calling it append what? I say append, then inside I'll say what? Data, right? So now I could have this now. Now the next thing for me to do now, I have to what? Create a new node with what? With given data. Now I could say let new node equal to what? Node, then what? Then open bracket what? Data, just like this guy brings for me. Now the next thing for me to do now, I have what? I create a if statement whereby, so this if statement now, what am I using for example? I'm creating the if statement like to if the list is actually what is, I'm actually using to check if the list is actually empty, then I want it to what? I want it to make the next the new node the what? The head. And I could say this if what? Now if this, right, if this dot head this way, so now if this dot head is equal to what? Null, right? So I can now say this. I could say if this dot head equals to null, I could say this dot head is equal to what? New node. Now me saying this dot head equal to what? New, sorry, not this way. This dot head then is equal to what? New, then now node. What I'm trying to do here is that I'm trying to what? Instantiate what? A class. Now mean that anywhere I call her this head now, it means I'm also talking about what? This node. So now I can now say this here. So basically what I'm doing here now is that I'm actually what? Creating a what? A new node with what? With the what? With the given data. Now the next thing I do now is what? I have an else statement. Now why do I have an else statement now? My else statement now says this. What does it say? It says
So I'm saying what? Else, otherwise what? If it is not empty, find what? The last node and what? Append what? The new node. Now I'll say what? Let's say let current equal to what? This dot node. Right? So now if I say this now, I can now say why I can now run like a loop whereby I'm saying while what? While current, right? While current dot next, right, is not equal to null. Now I need to do something. I need to do what? I need to what? Current is equal to what? Current dot what? Dot next. This way. So now I can now say outside this my while now I can now say this. I could say current dot what? Dot next is equal to what? New node. This way. Now the next thing for me to do now is create another method. Now I create a method whereby I do this. So like this. So I'll create a new method. This method now is to what? Add a new node at what? At the beginning of what? Of the list. Now I can call this node, let's say prepend, right? So prepend, then inside I could say what? Let's say data, right? So we could just call it prepend, then say data in it, then I could just say this. Now the first thing I will do now, I need to create a node which I need to create a node with what? To giving what? Data. So I will say let's new node equal to what? New node, then what? Node, then what? Data. So now like this now I'm creating what? A new node with what? With what? With the given data that we already have before. Now the next thing I need to do now, I need to what? Make the new node the head what? The head, and its next pointer what? The current head. Do you get me? So now the next I do here is this. Now I say so I say new node, right, dot text, sorry, dot next, right, is equal to what? This dot what? Dot head. Remember, sorry, this dot what? Head. Now remember I said what? This what I just wrote now, it means what? The new node, the what? The head, and it's what? It means the new node, the head, and it's what? Next pointer what? The current what? Head. Now let's see. The next thing I do is this. I say this dot what? Dot head is equal to what? New what? New node. Now at this point now, the next for us to do now is what? Create a new method. Now this method is what? Is to delete a node by what? By it what? By it. So we'll create the new method, right? To actually what? To help us to what? Delete a node by what? By its value. Now we say let's call it delete, right? Delete, then I will say what? Data, right? Now here I can now have this. I will say I have the first thing I have to do now, remember, is what? Is to check if the list was actually what? Empty. So I could say if this dot what? Dot head is equal to what? Null. Now what am I expecting it to do now? I'm expecting to do what? I'm expecting to what? Return what? Empty. So I could say return, let's say console dot log as what? Let's say empty, right? So now we are good with that. So now the next thing for us to do now is also to what? To check if the head needs what? Needs to be deleted, then or what? And update what? The head. Now I do this. If now I say if now if this dot what? Dot head, then dot data, right? Dot data, then I say this is equal to what? Data. Now I say this again. Now I say what? This dot head is equal to what? This dot head is equal to what? This dot head dot what? Dot next. I could have a return value here, return. So I can only add anything I want there. Now the next thing for me now is this. After that, I say what? I do another wise whereby I say I find a node to what? To actually what? Delete. So I will say let current, right? Let current equal to what? This dot what? Dot head, this way. So I can now say while current dot next is equal to dot next is not equal to what? Is not equal to null. Then I could say this way. While current dot next is not what? Is not equal to null, and right? So and current dot next, right? Dot data this way, right? So we're saying is what is not equal to what is not equal to what data. So now we can now say this now. So let's say this. Now if we say, so why this is happening, we say what current is equal to what current dot next. Now the next thing for us to do now is, so the next thing for us to do is what, create an if statement whereby we say if the node is what is found, we should move this by what, by updating the next pointer. Now do we do this? I'll say what if what if current dot next is not equal to what null. Now I could say this current dot next is actually what equal to what current dot next dot next again. Now we're done with that method. Now the next for us to now create another method. Now this method now is to display the list of what, the list as an array. Now we say this to, let's say array, let's name it this, to array, right? So I will say to array, then we say to array, then I will say let element, right, equal to what, an empty array, right? So now we say let current, right, let current equal to what, this dot head. Now at this point now I now say this while current, right, while current is not equal to what, null. Now I'm saying this, you should actually what, say what element dot push. Now remember this guy in array, element dot push dot what, element dot push, then inside the bracket we say what, the current dot data, meaning what, the current data. Now the next you can now say current. Now current is equal to what, current dot next. Now the next thing we say is what, return the elements, this way. Now after this, now let's see the output of our code. Now to run this guy, now we'll come here now out of the scope of our linked list. Then I will say, let's say this, let's initiate what, the linked list class. So we say let list equal to what, new list, linked list. Now anywhere I call out this what list, it means what, I'm talking about what, this linked list class for us. Now one of the things I could say is what, I could say list dot append. Let's say list dot append as what, as 10. Now this actually does what, actually what, adds 10 to what, to the end of the list. Now if I say this list dot append again, append. Now I say, let's say 20, yeah, now this one actually does what, it adds 20 to the what, to the end of the list. Now when I say list dot, now let's say prepend. Now what does this one actually do? This one actually does what, let's say I put 5 here. Now this one actually does, it adds 5 to what, to the beginning of the list itself. Now if I now want to make this more fun, I will now say, let's say console.log, right? Console.log what, list, right? List dot what, to array. Now remember I'm saying like the list is what, this linked list. Now inside that linked list you have what, this method called what, to array. Now I'm not saying this. What I want you to do, I'm saying what, I want you to output what, the list. Now it's going to output to 5, 10 and what, and 20 to us. Now I now need to do this. Now the next thing I need to do, let's test the other one, the list dot delete. Now I want to delete what, this first one, 10, right? That's the method, what we did in the method. Now we say console dot log of what, I could say list, then list to dot what, to array, this way. Now list to array, then I will say this, right? Now what does this guy do now? This guy actually what, output what, the list as what, 5 and what, and 20. So let's try to run this code and let's see how this runs out for us. Now we'll be having our output as this. Now to view it, now remember I can just say right click to view the console. Abi, you'll say what? Inspect. Or you just say Control Shift and what? And I. Now you see in the console now, we have this now. Now let's say we open this guy. Now the first one you're saying what? 5, 10 and what? And 20. Why? Because we say what? The first thing we want for it to happen is what? We say what? List dot what? Append 10, list dot what? Append 20, add 20. Then now list dot prepend, meaning now the first thing you should add to the list is what? Is 5. Now saying console.log what? List dot what? To array. Now this method now shows what? All this guy. Now after showing this method, now the next thing I did is what? List dot what? Delete, to check what? Our delete method. Now what does this guy do now? Actually what? Remove what? 10. Now if we come back here now, we won't see 10 in this other one. Now we're only seeing what? 5 and 20. So this is how the single list, actually the single linked list actually what works. Now let's check the other one whereby we call it what? The double linked what? List. We continue with the double. Now so let's call it double or doubly. That's what? Dots HTML. Right. So let's have our structure this way. Now remember the first thing we did there was to create a class of node, so we're doing the same here. Now we say, now remember the class of node I'm creating here now is to define what? A node class that will represent what? Each element in the what? In doubly linked what? List. Now the first thing I say now is what? Class dot, then I say class of what? Node. Right. Now inside this class now I create my what? My constructor. Again, Abby. Now inside it I put what? Data. Right. Now inside this guy now, and I'll say this dot data is equal to what? Data. Remember this first one actually what? Stores what? The data. Now I say what? This dot what? Dot next equal to what? Null. Right. The same thing we did in the single one. But now you remember when we said this one, we said this dot next now it's actually the pointer to what? To the next node. Initially set to what? To null. Now we also have this here now. We say what? This dot what? Let's say prev, like previous. Are we equal to what? Null. Now this pointer to the what? This pointer acts like a pointer to the what? To the previous node. Initially setting to what? Null also. Now the next thing for us to do now is this. Let's create another class and call it class. Now let's call it doubly linked lists. Right. So we can now say this. Now here now the first thing I will do also, I'll create my constructor. Then inside my constructor, then I'll say what? Now I could say this dot head equal to what? Null. This, what does this guy do? It initialize what? The head of the what? Of the list to what? To null. Now the next thing we do is what? We say what? This dot what? Dot tail equals what? Null. Now because I'm just giving variable names, right? I'm saying now this one initializes what? The tail of the what? The list to what? To null. When I say tail, remember like the bottom. Now I can now say this now. Okay, I now say I'm creating what? A method. Now the first method we'll be creating now is also what? Append. Now remember what the method did in the last place. Say what? The method this method is to what? Add a new what? A new node at the end of the what? At the end of the list. Now I could say this append what? Now remember the last one. Say what? Data. Then inside I can now what? Create a new node with what? With the given data. I will say let new node. Right? Let new node equal to data. Now the next thing for me to now say is this. I'll say so the next thing I do now is what? I run an if statement whereby I say if the list is actually what? Empty, I'll actually what? Make the what? The new head and I'll actually make the new node the what? The head and the what? And the tail. Now let's go about it. We say if what? If this dot right dot head right is equal to let's use 3 null, right? So I could now say this dot head is equal to what? New node. And I could also say this dot tail right is equal to what? New node. Now remember why we're using the if statement. Say what? If the list actually what? Empty now, it will make what? The new node the head what? The head and what? And the tail. So now we can now continue here whereby our else statement now. So I could say else. So I could say else this. Else what? This dot till dot what? Dot next. Right? It's got to what? New. It's got to what? New. The new node now we're having now. We can now say new node, right? New node dot prev. That's what? The previous. It's got to what? It's got to what? This dot what? Dot tail, right? So this dot tail this way. So now I can now have this guy this way. Now after this, now I'll just say what? This dot tail is got to what? New what? New node this way. Now that's the end of what? Our else statement, right? So now the next thing for us to do now is what? Is to create what? A new method. Now this method we're creating now, remember we did it in the singly. That's why we're creating what? The prepend method, Abby. Now this method is to do what? Is to add a new node at the what? At the beginning of those of the list. Now the same thing I could say what? Prepend, right? Prepend this way. Then I could say inside it I could say what? Data, right? So now I can now say the first thing I'm doing what? I'm going to create a node with what? With the given data. Now I'm going to say let new node equal to what? New node dot what? Dot new node equal to what? New node of what? Of data. Now this way. Now the next thing we now do now is this. We actually do it if the list is what? Is actually what? Empty. We actually what? If the list is actually what? Empty, then we do what? We make the node the what? The head and the what? And the tail, just like we did previously. So now we could say what? If what? If this dot what? Dot head, right? If this dot head is got what? Null, right? So now we can now say this. Sorry, I could say what? This dot what? Dot head is equal to what? Is equal to new node this way, right? So now the next thing I do now is say what? This dot what? Dot tail is equal to what? Is equal to new node the same way, right? Now it's making sense. Now the next thing we now say is what? Is the our else statement now. Now the else statement now, what are we trying to achieve here? We say what? Otherwise you should what? Update the what? The new pointers. So I can say what? New node dot next now is equal to what? This dot what? Dot head. Now and I'll say what? This dot what? Dot head dot prev. Remember previous, right? Is equal to what? Is equal to new node, right? This way. So now I'll say what? This dot what? Dot head. This dot head is equal to what? New what? Node also here. Now everything is making sense. Now the next part we need to do now is what? We create the other what? Method whereby for deleting, right? So now we'll create a method for what? For deleting a node by what? By its value. So I will say what? Delete, right? Delete what? Data, right? So now I can now say this. If the list is what? Actually what? Empty, and what is what? Return, like let's say empty or something. We'll say if this dot what? Head, right, is equal to what? Null this way. Now we can say what? Let's say return console dot log, let's say empty this way, right? So we can now have this guy what? This way. Now sorry, can have this guy this way. Now the next thing for us to do now is what? Is to do another if statement whereby we check if the head needs to be what? To be deleted, then what? Update what? The what? The head. Now I'm going to say this. If this dot what? Dot head dot, if this dot head dot what? Dot data is equal to what? Equal to what? Data, then you should do what? This dot head is equal to what? This dot what? Head dot what? Dot next, like meaning what? The next node. Now I'll say this. If this dot what? Head, you can see it's actually coming up already by itself. If this dot head dot what? Dot data is equal to what? Data, then you should do what? This. Now I could say inside here now I will say what? This dot head is equal to what? This dot head dot what? Dot next, right? Exactly. Now inside it again I could have another if statement whereby I'm saying this. If what? If this dot what dot head, right? If this dot head is not equal to what null, what should happen? Now I'm saying this. Now we're saying what should happen? We are saying what this dot head dot what previous is equal to what null also. So we have our else statement whereby we're saying this. We say else, right? Else what? I could say else if the list is what is now empty, then what update the tail as well as what as the head, right? Sorry, update the tail as well. So I'm gonna say what this dot tail is got to what null, right? This is how we what do this. Now remember, now I have what a return value here. So we just say, let's say return. Yeah. So now we could just have it this way. Now the next thing for us to do now is what run a loop on the what on the list to find what the node to what to actually what delete. Now say this. Let's what current, right? Let's current equal to what this dot what dot head, right? Now when I say this dot head, then the next sentence is what while the while loop, right? While what while current is equal to what is not while current is not equal to what null, and at the same time and what and current dot data is not equal to what data, right? This way. So now and I'll say this. I'm going to have what current is equal to what current dot what dot next. Now the next thing I have now is this. If the node is actually what found, then remove it by what updating what the pointers. Now what do? I say what if current, right? If current is not equal to what null, null. Now we say this. If current is not equal to null, what should happen? Now I could say what if current dot what dot next is not also what equal to null. Now inside that same if statement, right? Now I'll now say this. I'll say so I can now say current dot next dot what dot previous equal to what current dot what previous. Now at this point now I just what close this, then I say this my else statement. Now in my else statement now I can now say I could say this. If it's actually what the tail, then I want you to what update what the pointer. Now I say this dot tail is equal to what previous dot is equal to what this dot tail is equal to what current dot what meaning what previous. Now we go to the next part. Now we say this if current, right? If current dot what prev, meaning that previous. Now if current dot prev now I'm saying is not equal to what null, what should happen? Now I'm saying this. I'm saying what current dot prev dot what dot next, this way. So I could say it's equal to what current dot what dot next, this way. Now this is how this guy actually what works. Now the next thing now is what we create another method. Now a method for what the to array. So I can now say what to array, right? So the method for to array. So I could say this. Remember the method for to this array now. What does it do? It actually what display what the list as an array. And I could say what the first thing I could say let what elements equal to what equal to I could say what an empty array, this way. Now I can now actually say this. Let current equal to what this dot what dot head. Now when I say this, while current is not equal to what null. Do you get me? So now when I say while current is not what equal to null, I can now say this elements dot what dot current dot what dot data element dot what dot push, then inside we're having what current dot what dot data. So it's pushing what the current data we have. Now we say what current now current is equal to what current dot what dot. So we could just have a return here whereby we could say return, then what return what elements, this way. So now the next thing now is to check how the output of our code is going to what actually what look like. So we could say this. we will say so we say let list, just like we did before, let list equal to what? New doubly linked list. Now remember, I'm associating what? That class already. So when I call out list, I'm talking about what? Doubly linked. I'm saying list dot what? Dot append. Now let's say for append what? 10. What is going to happen here? It's going to what? Add 10 to the what? The end of the what? Of the list. Now if I'm saying this, let's say list dot what? Append of, let's say, 20. Now what this guy does, it's what? Add 10 to what? To the end of the what? Of the list. Now if I now say list dot what? List then dot what? Prepend, right? Now what does this guy do now? It actually adds what? Let's say I say 200. Now what does it do? It actually what? Add 200 is what? To the beginning of the what? Of the list itself. You know, the append now is adding what? Is adding what? The item, the number, all these numbers inside to what? To the end of the what? Of the list. But for the prepend, it's actually adding to what? It's actually adding this element to what? To the beginning of the what? Of the list. Now the next part we have now, we can now say like console.log to actually check what we have. Console.log, right? Console.log what? And I'm gonna say list dot what? To array. Now what does this guy do now? It shows what? The whole array for me, right? Now when I want to delete, the same way, we say what? List dot what? Delete. Now list dot delete, then I'll say what? Let's say I want to delete 20 this time around. So now we just say this, let's say console dot log, right? Sorry, okay, it's written everything for me. Console dot log as what? List dot what? Dot to array. Now let's run this code and see how this guy is. So here we are on Chrome now. So the same thing, just inspect. Now I press Ctrl Shift and I. Now you can see the same way. We're having what? 200, 10 and what? 20. Now for this guy now, 20 is gone. We're having what? Just 200 and what? And 10. This is how this guy what? Actually what? Works. So for the next part now, we'll be looking into what? Stacks. So let's get on with it.